Form, so we can sort of. I'm now calling this September 11th meeting of Vista Unified School District to order. We will start with the roll call. Trustee Alvarado. Present. Trustee Vargas.
Present.
Trustee Markov.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
And I'm Trustee Morocco and I'm here. And we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Vargas, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please rise. Right over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Before we sit down, I would like us to take a moment of silence. If it is 9/11, and I would like us to have a moment of silence for 9/11. We can sit. Everybody's sitting. So, if we could just take a few moments, a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on, I will read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the Payum Kuicham, the people of the West, as the traditional land caretakers of the land on which Vista Unified School District was built and its surrounding traditional cultural landscapes. Today, the Payum Kuicham are known as Luceño and are made up of 7 bands: La Jolla, Pala, Palma, Pechanga, Rincon, San Luis Rey, and Soboba. We, Vista Unified School District, are mindful of the indigenous peoples in this place, and we pay our respects to the Luceño, past, present, and future. We are grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this community in Luceño territory and to honor their history, culture, and perseverance of spirit. Thank you. I have a couple things to report out. Oh no, first, I'm sorry. Yes, no, I have a couple things to report out that took place in closed session. First, the board took action to accept the settlement for claim number #IV-00000909 and authorize the superintendent or designee to process all the items related to the settlement, and that vote was unanimous. On September 11th, 2025, the board in closed session by the following vote, 4 ayes and 1 abstention, took action to reject claim number 659420 as recommended by the district's third-party property and liability administrator. Thank you. And now I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, moved by trustee Markov. Is there a second? I will second. Is there any discussion, any changes? Yes, go ahead, trustee Vargas.
Yeah, I have a comment. I want to make sure I get on the record. The agenda today, we started at 4:30. Unfortunately, I work in San Diego. I'm not able to get here at that time. And so I would ask, the board that if we're going to move the closed session or the agenda to start at 4:30, that we have a discussion as a board. I think it's critical that every board member be present and active in these conversations, because they impact not just, our schools, but over 20,000 students in our school district. And so this is the first time I've seen that happen, so I hope that this does not happen in the future. 5 p.m. has already been moved In the past, we used to start closed session at 6 p.m. and start general session at 7 p.m. So that is my ask to this board.
Thank you. And noted.
I would concur as a person who works, 8 to 4. It's difficult for me to also get here. And, we have a lot of our employees who work until 3:45 or 4 o'clock. And so we're impeding them from coming to discuss anything in closed session, for giving comments. So I would agree with that. It's not taking into account a working class person's schedule.
Thank you, duly noted. With any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. So today we have, is it 2 public hearings?
No, just one,
Just one.
5A.
Sorry, I'm wrapping stuff.
Deleted that for you.
No, I got it. I just need to do it. 5A. Okay, here we go. Okay, so today we have a public hearing, and so I read from a script. And anybody that wishes to comment on this public hearing item is free to come to the microphone at the appropriate time when I say so. We will now open the public hearing on the sufficiency of standards aligned textbook or instructional materials or both for the 2025-2026 school year pursuant to California Education Code 6009. Do I put the gavel now?
You can if you like. Is it the-
The public hearing is now open. We welcome comments from parents, guardians, staff, community members, and representatives of our employee organizations, and I'm gonna say students. What? Speakers will have 3 minutes each. Please limit comments to the sufficiency of standards aligned textbook or instructional materials for each student to use in class and at home in English language arts, English language development, mathematics, science, history, social science, and if offered, world languages and health, as well as lab science and equipment for grades 9 through 12. Do we have any speaker cards? Chris?
No, nothing for this item.
For a public hearing, they don't need a card. They can just come up.
Says. The script says. Okay, so, and now we will open it up. If anybody has any comments and they would like to come up and speak, you may come up now. Going once, going twice. Okay, going 3 times. Seeing no speakers, we will proceed. Public comment is now closed. Colleagues, any questions for staff? Hearing no further questions, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you. We are now moving on to 6A, and we have some hold cards. These are public comments, items not on the agenda, items for future discussions. First, we have, Jody Angels, is that it? Did I say it right?
Jody Ingles
Angles, nice, thank you.
and friends.
And you'll
Good
have-
evening.
Yeah,
I have 3 minutes.
Just hold it.
Okay. Hi.
You have to hold it.
Oh, I have to hold it. Good evening, Superintendent, members of the Vista Unified School District Board. I'm here on behalf of the Rancho Buena Vista High School baseball program to respectfully request your support in providing equitable upgrades to our baseball facilities. Our current field was built in 1989, nearly 40 years ago, when the school first opened. Since then, while other programs have received major upgrades, our baseball facility has seen very little improvement and has fallen significantly behind district standards of safety, playability, and equity. When our current coach inherited the field, it was in despair. Through tireless volunteer work, contributions from families, and support from our booster club, we have been able to keep it playable, but it is far from adequate. We are asking for district support to address critical needs, a new clubhouse for secure storage, functional dugouts that aren't full of dry rot, new turf that isn't overgrown with weeds, sprinkler system, and updated batting cages so our students can train safely and competitively. These are not extravagant requests. They are the basic components of a high school athletic program. Under Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, schools receiving federal financial support are required to ensure equity across all programs. That includes equitable treatment and benefits in facilities, equipment, locker rooms. We recognize and celebrate the 1.6 million in improvements most recently rewarded to our RBV softball program. It is both important and well-deserved, but equity means that athletes, male and female, must be treated fairly. Currently, our baseball program is far behind in facilities, creating an imbalance that is not in line with Title IX. Vista Unified is dedicated to supporting students first. That is the language we hear time and time again at board meetings. We believe this support must include equitable access to safe, modern, and fair athletic facilities. This is not just about baseball. It is about honoring district values and complying with federal law. Most importantly, it is about providing our student athletes the same pride in their facilities that other programs like Vista High, also in the district, already enjoy. Our athletes work just as hard in the classroom and in competition as their peers. They deserve a safe, updated field and facilities that reflect the excellence of Rancho Buena Vista High School and Vista Unified. We are not asking for special treatment. We are asking for fair treatment. On behalf of our students, families, and our community of baseball, we urge you to prioritize funding for our upgrades to RBB baseball field. Thank you for your time and your commitment to equity, excellence for all of our students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our second whole part is for Eric Christensen. Is that, did I say that right? Christensen.
Good evening. My name is Eric Christian. I'm the
Just hold the button right there.
Hold the button.
Yeah, there you go. Keep it.
push to talk and keep it down.
There
Okay.
you go.
My name is Eric Christian. I'm the executive director of the Coalition for Fair Employment and Construction. We were formed 27 years ago solely to oppose what are known as project labor agreements, such as the one you put into effect in 2019, which openly discriminates against the 90% of the construction workforce in this county that is non-union. In doing so, you force any non-union worker who happened to be on a winning bid to pay union dues, even though they're not union members, paying to union health, welfare, and pension plans, which is essentially wage theft because nobody will ever invest in those programs long enough to get them. So they'll have to stop paying into their current programs that they have through their non-union employer, paying to the union plans. And if they don't vest, that money's lost to them. The third thing that PLAs do is they openly and explicitly discriminate in your PLA against the non-union apprenticeship programs that are in this county. The Western Electrical Contractors Association, the Associated Builders and Contractors, the Associated General Contractors, all of these entities have non-union apprenticeship programs that are state and federally approved. None of them can work under your programs. So you voted for this discrimination in 2019. Despite the bond monies that were available, there was no mention of a PLA when voters were asked to approve the PLA, and it was before the voters. You put it into effect at the behest of big labor special interests who support your campaigns. And now you're going to be coming to the voters again for more money. So we wanted to let it be known that we're going to be working with stakeholders across the construction and greater business community to oppose any bond measure or tax increase that you seek to go to the voters for, which means it'll be defeated. We've defeated 5 of them in the county because the entities had project labor agreements on them. Or you could do the right thing and tell your union masters that you're going to take the project labor agreement off of your work. And then we won't oppose it. We'll actually advocate for it. But by having a PLA on it, you reduce not only the value of each taxpayer dollar by reducing competition, because again, when the Bureau of Labor Statistics demonstrates that 90% of the construction companies and workers in this county are non-union, they're not bidding your work. So what's happening is you're getting fewer bidders and increased costs as a result. There just simply aren't enough union construction companies and workers to fill the need. And so you're getting people from not only out of the area, but out of the region. And you can change that by getting rid of the PLA. So I wanted to let it be known that if you are considering going to the voters for more money, we will oppose it unless the project labor agreement is removed from your bid packages. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Reichert, did I say that correctly?
Yes, thank
Thank you.
My name is Amy Reichert. I'm with Restore San Diego.
I'll push the
The
button.
button, just hold.
And you gotta hold it down.
My name is Amy. Oh,
You
you
gotta
have to
hold it
keep,
down.
have to hold it.
Yes.
Wow, I just learned something. Okay. My name is Amy Reichert and I'm with Restore San Diego. This district is preparing to go back to the taxpayers once again, asking for more bond money. But before you even consider it, let's talk about the facts. I think it's amazing that this room is filled with the best and brightest students in your district. I think it's amazing that you guys are so civically engaged. Thank you for being here. But we have to talk about the facts. Right now, only 42% of the students are proficient in English and just 30% in math in this district, you know. And that means more than half of our children are leaving the classrooms here without the basic skills that they need to succeed in life. This is not just unacceptable, it's not okay. And yet, instead of focusing every dollar on improving student outcomes, this board has chosen to make taxpayer money worth even less by placing discriminatory, union-only project labor agreements on school construction projects. These agreements shut out competition, drive up costs, taking away from the students that are sitting here when this money could be used on the baseball field that the moms came and spoke about tonight. That's where that money should go, right? So families pay more, students get less. My organization is passionate about these kind of issues, and we're not going to be silent. We will be educating voters, and we will make sure that the public knows the truth. This board is failing its students and failing its taxpayers. You're not improving proficiency in the classroom in a dramatic way that we so need very quickly. And it's not taking the fiduciary duty seriously. And you certainly are not earning the right to ask for more money. We have a powerful reach on social media. On Instagram, I have over 60,000 followers, and on X, over 35,000. I have a national voice now. And I'm going to use it for something like this because it matters so much. Voters need to know how badly this district is falling short and why more money is not going to solve the problem until you demonstrate accountability and real results. So my message is just really simple. Please put students first, respect taxpayers. And I don't mean this in a bad way. Do your job. I know you guys, you work hard and you have to drive all the way from San Diego. You're working class, I'm working class too. I see that and I appreciate that. And I know you guys get paid nothing to do this, and it's thankless work. But on this issue, I am asking that you re-examine this issue and look at the families and the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get one clarifying question?
Sure.
Matt, our bond oversight committee gave us a what rating?
A plus.
Okay, so we're doing fine by the taxpayers.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I have another clarifying question. Is there the same funds that we use for facilities? Is that the same funds that we use for classroom programs?
No, different funds. Facility funds are for construction. Classroom funds are a different funding source.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on. We are moving to reports from school-related organizations. Our Vista Teachers Association, Ms. Avila.
Hello. I push and I hold. Good evening, board, Dr. Doyle, cabinet, community members, and students. School is back in full swing and VTA has been very busy. This month, we've conducted several school site visits, and that's touring schools with principals, and it's meeting with members, bringing lots of pizza. It has been inspiring to see our educators doing innovative work in their classrooms and keeping student learning at the center of everything that they do. Earlier tonight, we were present during closed session. Not all of you could make it because of the change. And I also want to say that we had members show up after the closed session time. So we would appreciate a 5 o'clock start too, because it's easier for our staff to get here if we want to come and speak at closed session. But they came out to show support for our bargaining team, to advocate for the district to increase its contribution to employee benefits. Specifically, we are asking for the district to move from a hard cap to a floating cap, similar to districts like San Marcos, who pays 88% of their certificated staff's benefits. In Vista, over 90% of our members take the district's benefit package, with some paying more than $1,000 a month for family health insurance. With insurance costs set to increase by 13.5% in October, effectively, many of our teachers, our dedicated staff, counselors, psychologists are going to see a pay cut. We are hearing from teachers that they can simply not afford to work in Vista when nearby districts like Oceanside and San Marcos offer significantly more competitive benefit packages. We urge the board to take this issue seriously, working towards making Vista's benefits equitable and competitive so that we can retain and attract high-quality educators. So next, we are pleased about the 3 MOUs that you will be approving tonight, the per diem pay for service providers, additional compensation for the increased workload related to independent study contracts, and the clear guidelines for the use of digital platforms such as Ingenuity. And finally, we want to express our appreciation for your partnership in supporting our educators by funding the attendance at the CTA Special Education Conference. This professional development is critical in equipping our SPED teachers with the tools to better serve our students. So in closing, it is not just about numbers on a page. It is about the very future of Vista Unified. Every time a teacher leaves because they cannot afford to stay, our students lose a trusted educator and a mentor. We cannot allow this to become the norm. VTA is asking the board to act with urgency and take meaningful steps to make Vista's benefit package competitive. The cost of inaction is too high for our educators, for our students, and for our community. Let's work together to keep Vista a place where teachers want to teach and students want to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avila. Next would be our California School Employees Association, Ms. Ramos. She here, or is there anybody, is there a report this month? Going once? Going twice? Okay, and is there DLAC?
DLAC has met, yes.
Okay, so, and there's no DLAC report, so we'll move on to 8A, ratify and approve purchase orders. Dr. Lusher's show is beginning.
There's no presentation, it's only if you have a question.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. Anybody, okay, so, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve item 8A. 8A? Eight is purchase orders.
Purchase orders.
Did you have any? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Markov, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Alvarado, any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 8B, and I need to get that on my agenda. Oops. Approve the 2024-25 report on the unaudited actuals and funding. I believe we have a presentation for that, Dr. Lusher.
Yes, ma'am. We have a brief presentation for you this evening. We'll go through it, and if there's any questions, it's the pleasure of the board to ask. For the unaudited actuals, we'll take you through a few things. To open with, I do want to thank Ms. Machado and her entire team for their tireless work on this to present this forward. We'll go through and demonstrate to the board how we have enacted some of our strategies, some of the things you've seen at a very high level. The actual unaudited actuals you're approving is not this presentation, to be clear, legally. It's the SACS report, the very long report that's attached here at second. This is just a high level overview for you. Are we ready, Dr. Roth? Thank you. All right, we're presenting this evening in compliance with Education Code section 42-100. And we also have additional considerations. We are on GASB, that is that government accounting system, 34 requirements, and everything has been done in compliance legally with each of these items. We do need to submit this. You are receiving it. You don't necessarily have to agree. You're receiving this report and voting that you've received it. We file it with the county no later than next week. So we want to be clear on it. So what does this report say? This is this very long report that is here. There are a few things that are here. The first is, let's cut to the chase. Based upon the unaudited actuals, staff is going to recommend that we do qualify for what's called positive certification, that we can make our multi-year commitments based upon what we know at this time. All right. In terms of what we found, we divide these things out between restricted resources and unrestricted resources for finding. So for restricted resources, we did engage in a strategy that we've called in this room maximization of use. We'll talk about what that has done. We did make what we call an adjustment in the Cal Shape program. This is a program that actually goes back to COVID. We enacted part of that program. A second part it was deemed we should not enact. So we've taken it off the books. We're not actually returning physical money. It's just off the books here. And that's an adjustment of just over $4 million. For unrestricted resources, this is the one that matters in terms of positive certification. We have something called fair market value. These are the holdings that the county has for us. This is not actual money that we received. We didn't get any more money, but it is an accounting thing where we're able to represent $2.1 million more of value within the district. So that's not cash on hand. In terms of things, we have our improved interest rate outcome. That's 1.9 million. However, it was pointed out here most astutely by Trustee Martin that last year we had 2.4 million in interest. This is now down to 1.9 million in interest. And why is that? We've been in a deficit spending cycle. The amount we have in the bank goes down, therefore the amount of interest, even though the interest rates went up. Our amount to do, we have about $500,000 less income than we would have a year ago, right? We were able to engage in an activity we can do at the end of a cycle, maximizing our resources, moving salaries around. We were able to realize $2.9 million back into the general fund unrestricted. And then this is worth noting, and this is just the broadest overview, for strategic sourcings and actions in terms of purchasing, contracting, material supplies, extra hours, everything. We actually, in this last cycle, I'm pleased to report to everybody in the room, we reduced our contracting. We reduced a whole lot of things, and we were able to save about $1.6 million to the general fund there. So that's the broadest level overview of the unaudited actuals. On slide 4 is the highest level overview of our general fund, the unaudited actuals for restricted funding. And here you're just finding again that beginning balance, we removed the money for the Cal Shape program that we will not be enacting. And then we had some of our revenue adjustments and contributions, but overall here, we will go back to this again and later in the presentation, it's in that we're seeing that we're spending this down. In fact, we had some wonderful comments at our last meeting about our summer programs and all the wonderful things we're doing, and we were able to make that happen from these funds. When we look at slide 5, this is your broadest overview again, in terms of what is here for the unrestricted general fund. Again, we covered this. This is the equivalent in terms of moving things around. We had the agreement together that we would let you know when we do move money into restricted. About $2.9 million was moved over into restricted because we were able to find places we could put it. You're able to do that after the fact. Sometimes the state releases restricted money late. So we have this phenomenon right now where they've told us about a bunch of ELO funds. They haven't come up with the rules. So you can't place anything there until you know the rules, all right? So in this particular case, we were able to realize savings there. And then again, those additional savings and other revenue sources that were available. When we look down at what that looks like, we then combine them. You have your multi-year projections there as well. So what then does on slide 7, and this all look like together, just the restricted carryover balance and what is there. A reminder, this is a really misleading figure. We were, had some wonderful meetings with Trustee Martin this year, and we talked about how this can be misleading. This is not the money for this year. Many of these restricted resources represents 3 years of money that we have to have a plan for spending. So it's not all money sitting there for 1 year, but we have to report the balance, and you can see it there. It's about $63 million. And this is part of when we get new or revisions of rules, we can move things around, and we do that at the end to improve our general fund unrestricted. As we look down in terms of what does this mean in terms of an overview for you? Well, we still have some trends that we're seeing. We do see that from our general fund unrestricted, about 90% of our GFU, general fund unrestricted, is spent on salaries and benefits right now. All right, so that is sizable. For a district. We've talked about this figure of 80-20, which is something that is a different figure, but we are sitting here just at 90%. When we look at the restricted funds, about 64% of our restricted funds are used on salary benefits, and then those are used for other things, professional developments and kind of those sorts of things as well. Sometimes it's also used for additional items as permitted. When we looked at, what are we spending on? I understand this can be confusing. We have something called direct services for students. 84% of everything we spend is spent on direct services to students. About 16%, you'll see though, is administration and plant maintenance of those things. This is the increased cost of facilities and other things that are happening, right? So 84-16 in total when you look at the combined amounts. For additional sources of funding, as far as it goes for filing with the county, the major topic is Fund 1. That's the one we just covered. That is the general fund, divided between restricted and unrestricted. That is the focus that determines if you have positive certification. We also have all of these other funds that are available, different funds, all of them restricted and have specific uses for different things. And we do report these within that standardized accounting code report, the SACS report, and we report it here to you across the line. Fund, questions from last year, just a refresher, things like the enterprise fund, Fund 63, that is from the after school program revenue sourcing. It has to be spent for them back in. We have different funds. You can see the CNS funds we've had reports on, and we typically go through these throughout the year where we report on these different specialized programs and environment. And of course, right there in the middle, 46 million of the Fund 21 of the cash that is on hand, that's Measure LL, that huge lump sum that's available there. So we will be here for your questions. Just as an overview again here, we're here for your discussion feedback. The purpose is that you accept these. We file them in compliance with the law by the 15th of September. The next step to this, after you're done with this, is we're going to talk about the GAN limit. It is, again, a procedural vote that has to happen based upon a 1979 law called Proposition 4. And we'll go through that. It simply states that we have to spend at 1979 levels or get your permission to spend above 1979 levels, which we most certainly do here in 2025. After that, you will see us come back in December for the first interim report where we hope to have more information about those ELO funds, CTE funds, and other funds and what we're permitted to use for it. So that's our briefest overview so we can be legally compliant. Again, the SACS report is the one that we filed. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We're here for your questions.
Any questions?
I do.
Go ahead. Trustee Martin, you have the floor.
On page 6 of your presentation, I'm looking at revenues for the for general fund. And I see that there is an increase of $14.2 million. Can you tell me what those sources are from?
Yeah, we're going to turn it over to Ms. Machado, so that way she can go through each of those items for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of it is recognition of restricted funds that need to match the expenses. Some $2.1 million is the fair market value entry that we are required to make just once a year at a not at actuals. That brings the investments that we have at the Treasury up to date. 1.9 million of that is also the increase in the interest revenues that we had. And then, if you don't mind, Dr.
No.
Okay.
I think on slide 5, it's a little clearer.
Yeah. And so those comprise the unrestricted is about 5.6 there, so 2.1 in fair market value, the 1.9 in increased interest revenues, and then we have a few more like local revenues, donations that we recognize at the end, as we are closing our books and we are looking at all the things that come in last minute. And we capture all of those. And then on the restricted side, this is alignment. The biggest part is the increase in the ELO funds and also recognition of those funds that need to match the expenses. So for example, if we estimated that we were going to spend $3.5 million in Title I, the estimated actuals, that's what we need to show because they need to match the expenses. If we spend, let's say 4.1, that is increased by 500,000 or 600,000.
So in summary, it's slide 6 is a combination of our realized savings that we had for unrestricted plus additional revenues factual of ELO from restricted. And when you combine them, you come up with the amount that you've noted.
So in actuality, it's not a revenue source, it's from the
not
various.
extra money. Yeah.
It's not extra money. It is partially restricted funding that must be used for purpose. The other one it is a realization of maximizing resources.
Okay, and so are we estimating that we can do this on an annual basis somehow or some way?
So one of our strategies for maximization, let's break it into two things. So first, for the restricted resource, we do know of an increase in ELO funds. And that will be something we report back to you on, we hope on first interim, that we have the rules. So we understand what we can spend it on and what we can do with that, right? So you will see a realization here. Retroactively, after you budgeted an approved budget, at the end of the cycle, we do this process that we've described as maximization of use. We look at every possible place we can move money and move money around. And that is a process we plan to do annually. So that way we continue to free as much as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions? I just want to reiterate Dr. Loescher's gratitude to you, Ms. Machado, for all your help for this. So,
We have a great team. Thank you so much.
okay, so seeing no further questions, I will entertain a motion to receive. Is it a receive? The 2024-2025 VUSD unaudited actuals.
I move to approve the 2024-2025 report on unaudited actuals and ending funds balance as presented.
Okay, moved by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, we are on to 8C. The resolution to 2025-2026 is the Canada resolution.
Yes, ma'am. This is an annual resolution. And please excuse us, apologize for our students in the room. When you enter the room and we have it full, this is a physics experiment. We changed the size of the room, which means the microphone reverberates differently. So they're adjusting it. So I think they've got it now. So it's not it's not doing something strange on it. Yeah, thank you. For this item, the GAN limit, named after Paul Gann, establishes through Proposition 4 that we must spend at 1978, 1979 levels or receive the permission of the governing body to do so by passage of a resolution. So we have this resolution each year and it is there for your consideration. We're here for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve item 8C.
I move to approve resolution 2606 8C.
Moved by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on. Motion carries unanimously. Sorry. Moving on to item 8D, MOU between the Vista Unified School District. I just apologize, Ms. D'Ambrosio.
Do what you need to do.
Okay, is there any question? Are there any questions on the side? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve item 8D, the MOU between the Vista Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, chapter 389, number 389, regarding the increase of hours for specific classified positions.
I move to approve 8D.
Moved by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 8E. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve item 8E, the MOU between the USD and CSEA for transportation services.
I move to approve 8E.
Moved by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve item 8E. I'm sorry, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 8F. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the MOU between BUSD and CSEA for specific assistant positions.
I move to approve 8F.
Moved by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second? Second. Moved by trustee Markov. Any further discussion?
Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8G, are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the MOU between VUSD and CSEA regarding changes to the facility project coordinator job description. I move to approve 8G. Moved by trustee Alvarado, is there a second? Second. Seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8G, the MOU to H, sorry, 8H, sorry, thank you. These are blurring. Are there any questions on this one? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the MOU between VUSD and CSEA. We haven't made, did we make a motion to approve it? I'm saying that I'll entertain a motion to approve. I move to approve 8H. Okay, yeah, that's fine. You're gonna move to approve 8H. Is there a second? Start.
Definitely second.
Okay, so it was moved by trustee Alvarado, seconded by trustee Markov. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on, 8I, are there any questions for this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 8I. I move to approve 8I. Okay, moved by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any, aye. Any, opposition? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 8G. Are there any questions on this item? Jay, sorry. Jay. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 8J. I move to approve item 8J. Moved by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on, motion carries unanimously. Moving on, item 8K. Approve the MOU between the USD and BTA regarding a digital platform. I move to approve 8K. A move by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. And 8L, adopt resolution number 2610. Thank you. Okay, so this one, I actually have script because this was the hearing. Next, the action item to consider resolution number 26-10 declaring sufficiency of textbooks or instructional materials or both for the 2025-26 school year. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 26-10 declaring that each student has sufficient standards, aligned textbook or instructional materials or both for English language arts, English language development, mathematics, science, history, social science, and if offered, world languages and health, and confirming the availability of laboratory science equipment for grades 9 through 12 pursuant to California Education Code section 60119. I move to approve to adopt resolution 26-10. Moved by trustee Alvarado. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Markov. And any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. The resolution is adopted. Staff is directed to submit a copy of the resolution to the San Diego County Office of Education. Thank you. And moving on to the consent calendar. Does anyone have any items that they would like to pull from the consent calendar?
I do. I'd like to pull 11A,
Okay, 11A.
11E,
Let me get that. 11A, 11B. Okay, continue.
no, that was E as in
Oh,
echo,
sorry. E, thank you. E,
and 13G as in Gulf.
great.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. With the exceptions of 11A, 11E, and 13G.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Alvarado, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Martin. Any further discussion? All those, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so 11A.
Yes, so regarding, oh, you can have a.
Yeah, we'll wait till
Eric's
Dr.
on.
Shigella comes up. Go ahead. Mr. Markov, did you have a
So,
question?
I apologize that this question didn't get to you earlier, but, does this unified have an district attendance agreement at this time with another district?
We have agreements.
Don't push down.
Don't push them.
There.
Okay. We have agreements with all districts around us except for Carlsbad. So what happened was in Carlsbad, they changed their board policy. And so what happened is that they don't have an interdistrict service agreement. So our board policy currently, it says that we'll only accept a student if we have an interdistrict service agreement. Carlsbad is fine with students leaving Carlsbad, but they will not sign an interdistrict service agreement.
Okay.
So what we did was we asked F3 for language so that we could accept students from Carlsbad.
Okay, no, I appreciate that, thank you. Would it be possible just, kind of between now and the next board meeting to see a sample of the agreement? I'm just curious, like how it reads, what it looks like.
We can have that in the Friday letter for you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
that'd be cool, thank you. Yeah, otherwise I'm good.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 11A.
It's first reading, so you can approve it tonight, or you can choose to wait another session. So
Trustee Marcos.
I'm okay with going to.
Okay, are there any objections to approving it tonight? Any board member? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve item 11A.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Markov. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Alvarado. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of 11A, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to 11E.
Again, this was another question that I did have, but it was probably a little too late to get to you in email. But in 11E, there is several parts where there's a phrase that is struck, and the phrase that gets struck is sex discrimination or sex-based harassment. And it's replaced in favor by the phrase sexual harassment. And I was wondering if someone could illuminate, like, what's the difference? Why is there a change like this?
So when it comes to the entire board policy, essentially what happened was a year ago, we had a 2024 Title IX regulation that changed as of August of 2024. And then in this recent January 6th, they said, go away with the 2024 regulations, go back to the previous. And essentially, we're going back to the Title IX 2020 regulations, and we're basically just reverting back to the language from before. So it's just about any sexual harassment not based on sex.
Okay.
Another way to think about it is it went back to a broader definition. Sure.
Yeah. Right, thank you. That was
Thank you.
the only question. I'm okay with the first reading.
Do you have a comment?
I just need a little further clarification. The word discrimination and harassment are very, very different. And now sexual harassment will cover both of those. I mean, sexual discrimination, sex discrimination, sexual harassment.
versus the sexual discrimination. So what happened is, like, for example, as far as when we look at sexual harassment, it covers these certain components, whether it's hostile environment, whether it is really severe, whether it hinders educational procedures. And so during the 2024 regulations, under that kind of hostile environment, it covered any of those items. And this time for it to move into Title IX, it needs to cover all of those bases. It still would be covered under school discipline. It would just be different under Title IX as far as like our sexual harassment, where we go with it.
Is this policy applying to students and employees or just one of the groups?
When it comes to Title IX, it applies to both. So in student support services, we work with the students, and then in HR, they work with the employees.
And so my question is, for example, hiring, and if there is a discriminatory action against hiring female or a male, that's sexual discrimination, that's sex discrimination. Very, very different from sexual harassment. That wouldn't be harassment.
Yes, you are correct. That's better for Rachel to answer.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
question. It's a
HR.
very good question, but Rachel, could you come forward to answer it?
So there's sexual discrimination in multiple board policies. The one you're referring to is in hiring, and they're specific under the 4,000
Different.
series, but there is also
Right.
sexual discrimination in UCPs and other standard complaints. So as far as hiring, there's a specific board policy just for that.
So it is covered,
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Not in this one, in a
right?
different
But
policy.
it hasn't been struck in the others, you know, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think a clarification to that is, for Trustee Martin, it has always been there. So, and it's not under discussion with the board because it's always been in place.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 11E.
Motion to approve 11E.
Moved by trustee Markov. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Alvarado. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye opposed. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 13G.
13G. Out of district travel.
Out of district travel. Go ahead, trustee Markov.
Okay, so out of district travel, one of these, let me find the spot. Oh, yes, here. Okay, so on line item 7 is Vita. It says approve overnight and out of district travel for Kristen Turner, Brianne Williams, and Tyler Brumhoff to attend the Ron Clark Academy Admin Conference. And I understand that those three are individuals are from Vita? Is that yes? Okay. My comment really, it's really just a comment, is that like I believe that the Ron Clark Academy is a great place, great school, and they're gonna learn a lot. And my question is, how are we going to move what they learn into the best practices at Vista Unified?
That's a great question. So the Vita is putting this in and they're using their site funds for it. And so Ron Clark Academy is, it looks like you've already looked it up. One of the most innovative leading schools in the nation. And Vita has always sought to be one of the innovative leaders for our region. And so Vita has historically gone on a lot of trips and intentionally brought stuff back to always improve. And we see that in the continued demand for the magnet in the lottery process. And so I have full confidence that the team, and one of these is administrator, the others are teachers. So there's that two-way buy-in because teachers get stuck when administrators get in their way. And sometimes administrators have dreams that teachers don't buy into. And so it is good that they're going together. So I have full confidence in this group. I hired each of them that they'll come back and do that. For your broader question of Vista Unified, I can't speak to that specifically because I don't want to make you promises that I'm not ready to keep.
Okay, fair enough. And now, one of the things that we're both attended recently was the Magnet Steering Committee. And I think that was very nice that we had a representative that was a non-magnet school there. to also hopefully pick up ideas and also share concerns that, because the way I look at Vista Unified is kind of like we're a team, right? You want to have the techniques and procedures that, whether they're administrative or educative, that get, ideas that get brought back, that these spread to the whole district. And that's kind of my hope. So it can be a further discussion, but that caught my eye and I was like, okay, that's great, but it'd be greater if we could get the buy-in for, certain ideas to spread.
Absolutely. And the other school that you're talking about is an Artful Learning School, and they have invested tens of thousands of dollars in summer PD, having Artful Learning come out and continue to work with them, and you have already approved contracts for that. So I wouldn't want to speak for that principal, that
Sure.
what Vita's gonna find at Rodman Clark
Right.
fits with what that other school that you're mentioning is trying to do.
Absolutely right.
But I know Damon Patterson, the principal of Vita, he would be willing to share anything that they have. And any of the schools, Madison's digging in a lot around Avid. I know Tom would be willing to share with the other principals as well.
Okay.
But so we can help facilitate that conversation of that cross pollination.
Right.
But I would say as principals and the school teacher leadership teams are interested in the specific topics.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve item 13G.
I motion to approve 13G.
Is there a second? I will second. So it's moved by trustee Markov, seconded by trustee Morocco. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And with that, I am going to let our students know that they have been here. We are almost at 7:30. So you have one more minute if you care to stay. You're more than welcome to stay, but you are released. Yes, and now we will take a 10-minute recess.
members of the Board of Trustees and Dr. Doyle. We're going to actually hand the majority of the presentation over to Ms. Dowler. For the next meeting, it may be that I'm not present, so we're doing our rounds and our everything. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at a few items for you this evening. First is our financials. We are on track on all of our Measure LO financials. Everything reflects all of the planning and the items. The increased expensing that you're seeing is Bovier Elementary School. What we are coming to is just generally a point where we will need to start to engage in a discussion about a few items. Some of those are going to be kicked off in a financial cycle tonight over the next few presentations. All right, and we're going to weave something in here real quick. We have not sold all of the bonds for Measure LL. So there may be a theoretical amount left over in LL, but at some point we're going to have to discuss selling what we call Series C or Series D bonds in order to collect those funds. And we'll be discussing that over many months. And we have Jim with us this evening, who is our expert, and we'll be talking about one aspect, the certificate of participation, but in a future meeting coming back to start to talk about that cycle of it. But another thing that we'll be doing in here is realizing some of the interest in other things from our previous bond sale. And so you will see a revision of this in the future. But at this time, Chris Dowler and I work together. I have that privilege, and I truly mean that. She's just going to walk you through the progress at Bovier. Like most of the things that we talk about at Bovier, everything you're seeing is no longer the case. We walked it yesterday. There's epoxy on floors. There's things happening. There's cabinets in rooms. There's paint on walls. There's things happening. So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ms. Dowler. Thank you for your leadership and everything too.
Good evening. So the first slide that you see here is building A, and as Dr. Loescher said, these are a little outdated already, but we are applying stucco on building A. The north side still is getting a wrap that you'll see on that slide to the right. But probably by next week, you'll see stucco on that building. So the back half of building S, south and west, does actually have colored stucco on it already. All right, the next slide is an idea of what our kinder restroom tile is going to look like. And then also cabinets have been delivered and installed in some of the classrooms at building A South. All right, this is building B, our MPR. Scaffolding is up so that we could apply our stucco. So that's getting a wrap currently right now. And then the MPR kind of looks like a little bit of spider webbing there, but that is our mechanical system, quite impressive. So I thought I'd throw a slide in there of that. Our mechanical is complete. Installation is actually installed. That you see on the ground, bless you. Is installed already, and we will be drywalling next week. All right, building C, also some exterior stucco. And then also just threw in a picture there of our STEAM classroom. And then the opening to the right where the plastic is where our kiln will be located. All right, and then building D, our CMU is complete. Our roof is actually on that building already. And we'll start next week with some interior mechanical. And just another note, currently we're a little bit ahead of schedule on our roofing. All buildings are roofed and dried in currently right now. So that's a huge milestone that was achieved early on.
Before the rain.
Before the rain.
All the roofs are up?
Yeah,
Yeah, before the
all
rain.
buildings are completed roofing.
Huge step.
We're driving.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Any questions I can answer tonight?
Any questions?
Just a request, I'd like to stop by next Friday if there's a good time, want to see the latest updates.
We have a line of people that start at 5:30 a.m. You're welcome to join us for that. We have the most motivated construction site. We have a great superintendent there, Frank. And anytime is the time we'd be happy to host any board member. We just ask for you to coordinate through Crystal Polis, so that way we make sure we don't violate the Brown Act accidentally, right? So if we coordinate through the superintendent's office, we'll be sure to get you there at any time that works for you.
Great. We also want to keep people safe. There's a lot of construction happening right now.
Correct.
Mostly the steel structures that are all over the place.
Yeah, the scaffolding just makes it a little
dangerous.
precarious. So we'll keep you safe if you'd like to come by and visit next week.
We'll get you a hard hat, a vest.
Yep.
Well, and make sure you wear long pants if those
Yeah.
shoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Maybe
please.
30.
We do want to say thank you to Trustee Morocco, who's been at all of the meetings as your facility representative and been touring and asking some wonderful questions. So that way she can answer anything firsthand. So thank you very much for attendance.
I yesterday I wasn't able to make it, but yeah, most of them, I think.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
It was for a good reason.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on, it is, the agenda, fiscal stability strategies,
Yes.
item 17B.
All right.
Here we come.
Want to come up? Sure. You want to just speak? Thank you very much. We've had an ongoing series of conversations together, and part of that conversation has been about what are the trends that we're seeing in budget over term. And we wanted to start these conversations early for the board. Remember, we are trying our best to shift conversations before you get into budget season. So that way you can be thinking about these things as you enter and move into budget season, rather than talking about them in the middle of budget season. That's a very difficult thing to put trustees in that situation. Part of that is we've talked about fiscal stability, that there are different options, different strategies available, and what those might look like. And what we have done is we've sort of come together on this topic. So what are we doing here this evening? There are some desired outcomes that we're seeking from the board this evening, and we wanted to put those on slide 2. So we're hoping to provide you information so the board can engage on a discussion of potential strategies and funding levels of that strategy. So what does it look like? We do have a board policy for our reserve for economic uncertainty. Remember, there is a state requirement, there's a board policy, but those don't necessarily match up with cash flow requirements to make payroll or dealing with certain situations if we're seeing an unstable environment. They don't necessarily allow for us to have what we might call, in some places, a rainy day fund, something that allows for us to make gradual changes so that way we don't have to engage in more dramatic actions like layoffs or reductions of other kind, right? So we're hoping that when you hear about the strategy, you will engage in that discussion. We will hope that you might identify any policy changes you think may need to occur. We will identify, based upon your decisions or direction, what policy changes might be out there that you might need. And then, of course, direct the superintendent or their designee and staff to take appropriate next steps based upon your discussion and feedback. You're not passing anything tonight. We're seeking your input, your feedback, so that way we know what to do next if the board has interest, if that makes sense. The agenda is very simple. We're going to give you a few introductions. We're going to give you an independent person going to give you an analysis of things. You'll have your opportunity for a discussion, and we're here for your questions and answers. And then if you come to consensus, just letting us know what you're thinking so we can take that feedback and input. On slide 3, it is my pleasure to introduce Vince Christakis, who has actually worked as part of our transition team. Many of you may not be familiar with him. He is a legendary chief business officer who trains other chief business officers. And we've relied upon him for various aspects of supporting our district and many other districts, not just on these fiscal strategies, but providing independent analysis. So oftentimes when we tell you we engaged in a multi-step process on an item, what we do first is we run internal metrics, internal numbers, we review them. We have the county ask for feedback and input and review, and we'll send them to somebody like Vince and ask for his feedback and input. So we have different eyes on everything. I'm going to turn it over to Vince at this time. I also want to say thank you to him because these are his metrics, his numbers. We didn't touch them. We did provide him formatting slides, so that way he was at our formatting. But this is a topic he'll leave with you. He's going to start by getting into some historic backgrounds, numbers that he's pulling from the state, talk about those district metrics, and then talk about what is Fund 17, what are some of the strategies, and then we're here jointly for any questions or answers. Just let us know whether you want Vince to answer, myself, or the superintendent, so we know which way to go with that. So Vince, I'm turning it over to you again. My thanks for everything.
Okay, thanks, Sean. It's a fine looking group of people. Yes, President Morocco, board members, and Dr. Doyle, Superintendent Doyle. I appreciate the introduction. So what I'm going to talk about just a little bit is we're going to go back in history. And because in order to know how we got to where we are, we have to know where we have been. So that's why a lot of these slides you're going to see go back 10 plus years in a lot of cases. What you're looking at right now is the slide that looks at the enrollment and the average daily attendance historically. And what we see is we go back to the year 2010. And if you look at the first bar on the left, you'll see that there's a little sign right next to it. It says this is the 2010 enrollment was over 22,000 students. So you're seeing 22,655 students that were enrolled. And it generated ADA, average daily attendance, of 21,559. So that's a lot of ADA. And as we know, ADA is what drives revenues. The enrollment drives expenditures. So that's what drives your staffing is the enrollment, and the ADA drives the revenues. If you go all the way to the other side of the chart, now you'll see that the district has been in declining enrollment since 2010, maybe even before that. I just went back to 2010. So we have about 15 years potential of history here. And you can see in those early years, we started to decline a little bit. And then when we hit around 2017, you'll see it starts to speed up a little bit, the decline. And then when we hit the pandemic years, when you look at the last four bars and you start to see the ADA, so we've been mainly you've been maintaining about a 95% ADA, which is pretty good for most unified school districts, right up until the pandemic hit. And then, like many districts, you guys suffered, like many districts did, reduced ADA. And I know some districts went as low as 80% on their ADA numbers. In this particular example, you'll see that somewhere around 22, 23, and going into 23, 24, I think that's no, it only goes up to 23 here. There's a 21, 22. You'll see that there's a flat spot. Now, if you remember, if you were here during the pandemic, you'll remember that there was a hold harmless.
Mhm.
Districts continued to decline in enrollment, but the state held you harmless with the idea that, your ADA may come back. So, they held that ADA harmless. But then you'll see that the cliff came in the 2020 year or 2022 year, and then that's when that hold harmless went away. They went to a 3-year rolling average. So now we get to 2023, and you'll see that now the number for enrollment is down to 18,000, a little over 18,000. And then your ADA was only at 91%. Now, I will say, over the last year, I just was talking to your student services person, and I said, well, how's your ADA doing this year? And she says, oh, it's better. So from what I understand, you're back up to a 95% level, which is good. I'm telling you right now, some districts have not recovered yet. Hopefully, obviously you guys did a good job of getting kids back to school. So what does this now look like? So let's take a look at the next slide. And so how do you translate this into something that means something? Well, it's the dollars. And this is where we take a look at, if I took that dollar amount of the enrollment amount from the 2010-11 school year of 22,467, and then looked at the current year, or the last year that I've had information on was the 18,000. You lost over 3,600 students in that period. That translated to ADA loss, though, of about 4,286 students. And then we take a look at the 97, the 95% went down to 91%, but of course it's come back, which is good. So that last column where you're looking at the $295 million, that's what the district would have earned during that 23 year in LCFF funding if you had no loss of enrollment, if you were still at that 22,400 students. So what we take a look at now is what did they have? Well, they had 236 million. So that's a $58 million reduction in revenues. Now, you didn't get that whole 58 million in one lump sum. That would have been very, dramatic, but it comes over time. And so there was planning done as those students didn't show up. And so that's what many districts have been dealing with in this declining enrollment scenarios. So let's take a look at now this slide right here. You'll see is financials, and it goes back, and I got this one all the way back to 2008. Takes us all the way up to current year. I don't have the unaudited actuals in here because I didn't have those available at the time I put this together, but it's not much different. So you can see from the bar chart here, there's 5 bars under each year. The first bar is the beginning balance. The second bar, which is orange, is the revenue. The third bar, the green one, is the expenditures, and this is all combined general fund dollars. And then we get to the next bar, the little blue bar is the surplus or deficit, and then the last bar is the ending balance. And as you can see, for those first couple of years, your revenues were going up, but your expenditures were sort of holding the same. And then we got into the Great Recession in 2010, 2011, and you can see the revenues dropped dramatically. The expenditures didn't drop at the same time. And that's because it's very difficult to cut during the middle of the year, because that's when a lot of this stuff happened, right in the middle of the year. But as you can see, the following year, 2011, the expenditures got dropped. The district made some hard decisions, like many districts did. I had to go through it in 2 different districts in my career as a CBO. And then we see it goes up flat until almost 2013. 2013, what happened there? We had a new funding model called LCFF, Local Control Funding Model. And that took about 3 years to implement. And so you can see during that 3-year period between 2013, 14, 15, right up to 2016, that both the revenues and the expenditures went up pretty much the same. And so there was good management going on there. But once we get to the 2017, fully implemented the LCFF model, but then we can start to see where expenditures continue to rise faster than the revenues. And that's because the COLAs and things like that during that time were not that great. And again, a lot of districts, because coming out of the Great Recession, they were restoring a lot of positions and a lot of things that they had cut several years before. Now, how many were here during the pandemic? I think most of you guys probably were. So, but you know what happened then? So you can see what happened where all of a sudden we go down. We lost revenue. Expenditures went down pretty quickly. And then we started to see revenues climb at a really steep rate. This was mainly due to one-time dollars. This was state funding and one-time federal dollars that had come in to help offset that learning recovery and things like that were going on. And as we follow the chart, you can see expenditures continued to rise. Revenues maxed out in 23, but then they started to come back down and get back to normalcy. And you're starting to see a more normal year in this year. But the expenditures have kept up. Now that's okay because you have big ending balances. And that means that those you're finally spending those down. But here's the caution. Don't get used to it. It's going away. And then what I've discovered is through some of your extended projections for enrollment, that this district is going to continue to decline in enrollment for several more years. until it hits around 14,000 is what I understand. That's another 3 to 4,000 students. That's another 50 to 60 million dollars. That's not going to be here when that happens. So you have to start thinking ahead. Let's take a look at some of the issues that, again, I've already alluded to some of this stuff, but during some of these areas, I'm going to look at this chart shows from 2013 when we started implementing LCFF. This is where we started to really increase cost by bringing back positions. And you can see this chart shows that blue line on top. This is a percentage chart. And that blue line is certificated teacher FTEs. And so this was restoring some of the probably teacher FTEs that may have been cut during the recession. But it was also using some of those new dollars that we got from LCFF. This district probably had a fairly good unduplicated count, which basically meant you got a lot more money in supplemental concentration grant funds that would be able to be used for restoration of learning and things like that. So that top percentage chart was always staying in the positive, but you look at the bottom, that line is the enrollment. That's the enrollment continuing to go down. At the end of that enrollment chart, you'll see that last number is the cumulative number, and it is about 15%. I think it was 15.67% lower, while your staffing was about 12.83% higher. So this is an area that we know probably needs to be looked at. And what we talk about in many cases, we refer to right sizing. And so this is the time that you probably need to start looking at doing that. This chart right here that you're seeing is a chart that basically takes a look at there you go. I want to make sure I look at the same chart you've got up there. So these green bars represent the FTEs in teacher FTEs. And then that blue line represents the ratio of students, number of students per teacher FTE. Okay, and on the very left side, it starts off a little around 24 or something FTE or a ratio. 24.9 was in 2017, I believe. And then it starts to go down. You start leveling out somewhere around the 21 to 22, which is actually pretty normal for districts, unified school districts. Do a lot of looking at across the board and comparisons, and that's about where the staffing levels are at. But if you look at what's happened in the 23 era year, you added more staff. A lot of this probably had to do with the one-time dollars, mitigating lost learning. And so now that ratio went down to 18.3. Great for temporary, but not sustainable in the long run. Something that obviously I know you guys know, and it'll be, I realize that you just did a retirement incentive. And hopefully with that in place, will allow you to help make some of those right sizing adjustments. So now let's talk about Fund 17, because that's what this is all about, really. So Fund 17, that's what we call the Special Reserve Fund for other than capital outlay. And this is important because I think almost every single district I've had a Fund 17. And so when I see a district that doesn't have one, I'm kind of curious as to, why wouldn't you do that? Here's some of the positives about having a Fund 17. One is you can set the money aside into Fund 17, but you can't spend it out of Fund 17. So what that means is it's protected. And so there's no way that you can accidentally dip into that that reserve and spend it without some sort of action. So it requires board action to move the money back into the general fund. So this allows districts who want to maintain that general, kind of a cushion, a reserve, rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it, park some of that money back into Fund 17. It's very transparent because right now you have to show anytime you have a report like a interim report or an unaudited actual report. Fund 17 has to be shown along with Fund 1, the combined general fund. And so people will see that, yes, you've got a reserve for economic uncertainties that at least has met the state requirement of 3%. And I understand your board requirement is about 5%. Which again, I applaud you for that one because that's the same thing my board did is during the recession, they decided we're never going to do this again. We need a 5% reserve. And so it's a good thing to have. And again, the board has still control over that funding because it's got to be looked at before and approved before it gets moved back into the general fund. So there's a lot of good things that come out of that. If I had to make a recommendation, I would certainly highly recommend that you establish a Fund 17. Whether you use it or not, at least it's there because if it's not there, you have no way to use it. And I think going forward, seeing what we're seeing on the horizon with a continuing declining enrollment, you're going to probably need to do something to keep yourself solvent throughout this next several years. Questions, comments?
Yep.
Or discussion?
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Martin?
On the Fund 17. What, if you're talking about the declining enrollment and you're talking about the additional expenses, where would the money come from to put into Fund 17?
Well, that's a great question. So right now, you just did your unaudited actuals. You've got about $30 million in your undesignated line of the unaudited actual ending balance within the general fund. I would say just move a part of that over into Fund 17. That would be my recommendation.
Wisdom.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think we have two answers here. That is certainly one option. A strategy we've discussed is there are new ADA rules for school districts that are effective this year that we're not allowed to budget to because they are not proven strategies. It's for ADA reclamation, pulling back ADA. One of the recommendations that we have made to the board is that if you seek to establish a Fund 17, you can use reclaiming those funds and simply divert those funds into Fund 17 so there is no impact. You cannot budget to them because this is all brand new. It's going to take 2 years minimum before we have a data trend where we can prove anything. We believe that over 2 to 3 years, that would be enough to fund that particular Fund 17. Second is to engage in proactive strategies. We did this year. Where we go back and we perform audits on some of the things. We audited our master schedule for the last several years. We reclaimed over $200,000 in funds here and there, just based upon shifting master schedules around by understanding the rules of engagement for those. Each one of those sorts of strategies are possibilities for putting money aside here that does not impact your capability to budget or to account for ongoing expenditures. So we would come back with options for the board based upon if you wish to seek this for different strategies to do that, with the understanding that the preference is not to touch anything that's within the budgeting model strategy. So.
Last question, is it legal for Fund 17 to be used for salaries?
It's legal to transfer Fund $17 back into the general fund and use them in whatever way you determine.
If we go back one slide to slide 9, you were talking with Vince, talking with Vince, there really are 4 aspects to Fund 17 that we really would want you to look at. One is there's a protection because it's called an internal control. It's a control on the money, okay? In terms of communication, I know certainly Trustee Martin, we've talked a bit about how budgets are communicated. It can get really murky where everything is. It's a communication tool to say, here's what we in fact have, period, right? And then for solvency, it counts towards the 3%, but to what Vince is speaking to, it can only be moved with board direction. This is not something the superintendent or I could do. You would require, we would come to you, you would have to resolve to do it, we pass it, you would have to move it, then it could be used for something like this.
This is a follow-up, Vince, to Trustee Martin's question about utilizing it for salaries. It is one time, right?
Yes.
So you may want to clarify that.
Yeah, no, well, certainly, I was just answering the question that you asked, but it's not recommended to use one-time dollars on ongoing, and what we call things that eat, because they don't stop eating. And so you need to make sure you get an ongoing revenue stream in order to support salaries, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, looking at the demographic trends, is that only inclusive of our students, or does that include charter school students and totally private schools?
That's just the district students.
So looking at the demographics on the screen, as Vince has presented, is our enrollment, our ADA. When we present to you with a demographer, which we will come back to you with, the demographer is going to give you the total number of students within the district and then break it down by, here's how many we believe will go to the district versus private school versus charter school. That's where we will see that breakdown. For the purpose of this presentation, it's just our enrollment.
And from the options in the slide 10, Sean, which ones are we doing, and which ones, where can we move the needle if we are looking at these bullet points?
In terms of strategies, well, reducing expenditures, I think what we've heard is that we have our student to teacher ratio, and we should talk about all of those things. Now, how you achieve a student to teacher ratio, I want to be really specific. Student to teacher ratio is run by the total number of students, the enrollment, divided by the total FTEs of teachers. That does not necessarily mean those are the numbers in the classroom, right? I just want to have clarity on that. That's a different question, all right? But certainly, if 90% of our budget is what we presented inside of the unaudited actuals is on ongoing expenditures for salaries and benefits, if you're seeing a reduction of your budget over time, because as we presented here, ADA is going down, that's your revenue, right? So if your revenue goes down 14% over 5 years, but you only have 10% of your GFU left outside of salaries, you can't take 14% out of 10%. If you canceled every contract, canceled every bus, everything, you couldn't do it. So you have to look at how we go about doing that. Now, there's different strategies. We just engaged in a SERP. That is a particular strategy. Attrition-based budgeting is attrition-based staffing is a strategy where we don't fill positions. Okay, and to be clear, sometimes we get confused about this model, and I say we, I mean we, as administrators in the district even. When we say we are closing a position, it doesn't necessarily mean it closes a position at a school. It doesn't take away equity. If we close a position at one school, we may have to change positions to fill that slot on an equity-based model in different ways. So saying that we reduce the number, let's give an example, and we're not going to use teachers as an example because everybody gets nervous when we do that. If we were to reduce the number of administrators in the district, right? A conversation that people have. It doesn't necessarily mean that some schools shouldn't have more administrators than others based upon the needs of the school. It means the total number of administrators have gone down and you move some administrators from one place to another to address it. So I'm just saying, when it goes through, the number one strategy we have to deal with, the number one warning we get over and over again is this district has done nothing wrong. Our percentage of students that live within Vista Unified and go to this district has increased. not decreased. They're not going to charters. They're not going to private school. We have increased our market share, what is called. They're going here more. It's that the total number of kids that live here in this district, in our neighboring districts, it's all going down. So we do have to, at some point, we have to address the number of staff we have in proportion to it. That's where you see that number that's coming back. So I think that is number one. And you're seeing here the various methodologies being recommended. And I won't speak to those. We've spoken about some of them, attrition-based staffing models, strategy about right sizing. What are our options? What are the times you can do that? So there are other strategies as appropriate as well, because for everything that you right size in terms of reducing staffing, contracting and other services to support them should in exchange be right sized, and so should the other things. So those would be the number one.
No, thank you. And I guess my comment on that is like, let's start that sooner. I know it's easier, to like add positions and knowing that, some of these positions have, direct impact on education, on our students. But it's a lot easier to cut off the phone versus, getting $50 million in a single academic year.
Yes.
That then has a drastic impact from one year to the next.
There's one really important connection. This is it's all about timing in terms of this conversation. You have two brilliant people here to help. So if the two of you could draw a connection between what we just discussed, right sizing, attrition-based staffing, and this concept of a resolution that the county may require us to do as it relates to the declining enrollment and the significant uptick in staffing, and where the county's role is in that.
Sure. So oftentimes when we don't know what we're going to do in future out years. So let's start with the notion again of a multi-year budget, year one, year two, year three, right? And as we're budgeting and we get ready for the next year, let's look ahead. We'll have our year two moves to year one, and you have that new year three moving in, right? 1, 2, and 3. What a strategy that oftentimes has been employed, including here in Vista Unified, just a year ago, is that when we don't know what specific positions, a reduction of particular kinds of service, PKS, right? When we don't know what that is, the county will ask us to pass a resolution promising to reduce by a specific amount in the future. And then we will have options for how to do that. The example in this case is we said we would reduce by a specific amount, and the SERP was our strategy, but they cannot count. These are rules of government. They cannot count a strategy that has not been passed by this board. It's not our word or Rachel's word. The board has to pass the strategy. You are the governing body. You're the voting body for this, right? So that may be a requirement on some of these things where if we don't know, we may have to make a broad-based commitment and pass a resolution for future reduction.
I just wanted to bring that up with the board because more likely than not, based on the data we have, that's probably something the board will need to do.
Again.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a really quick question. So I think trustee Alvarado, you have.
I just have a quick one too.
Okay, go for it then.
So would the 17 help us if we can't make payroll 1 month, and then how quick does this have to be approved by a board? Like if you get to the point where you don't have those funds to make payroll?
So in terms of payroll, what we're talking about now is a couple of things, right? And this is where I love it when Sue and I get in the room talking. There's a difference between budget, actuals, and cash flow. Okay.
I mean cash flow.
Yeah, cash flow, right.
Yeah.
And it helps with cash flow. And that is the big deal here, is it helps with cash flow. And what I would say is, this is San Diego. Okay, so I'm going to use a sailing sea analogy because we're in Navy town, all right? And I grew up down in that area. When the seas get high and volatile, it helps to be on a big boat. Okay. Fund 17 is kind of like your big boat when you see a lot of volatility. Now, when we see a lot of people get nervous, for example, when we say there's a change in federal or state policy, and now they're looking at funds and they want to remove 3% of our funds, but they don't know. All right. So we're using a theoretical thing, but I think factually we've seen this happen both at the federal and state level. We're going to hold 3% of your funds while we review them, and it may be 9 months before it's resolved. 6 months, 3 months, it doesn't matter. Fund 17 becomes a place where there's cash on hand to make an informed decision and not make dramatic movements. You can make your payroll, you can make cash flow, you can pay your bills and keep the electricity on and everything running while that resolves. So it gives you that cushion. It's that bigger ship that allows you to do that. It also can be used to restore. It actually generates funds. Recall earlier this evening, we said we moved from $2.4 million in interest to 1.9 million. We lost $500,000 in the equivalency of income because we don't have that cash on hand. If you have a Fund 17, it's held there. You can be earning interest on that, which increases your revenues. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did, and
Yeah, that's,
it's the board majority, it's not like a super majority, it's just the board majority.
Let me give you one more
let's do
thing. I'm not sure that we've discussed this one yet, but it is something you can do, and that is at the beginning of every year, and I'm not sure if you've done this or not. You can have a resolution that allows the superintendent or the executive of the district to move cash between funds. So you can do those borrowings of cash as needed.
They passed it last time.
Yeah.
Last week.
Okay,
Passive.
all right.
Yeah.
So you've got that resolution in place. It allows then the administration to make those decisions. Of course, they have to let you know about it. So you said how fast it can happen? Well, it can happen like real fast.
pretty fun.
Yeah, because sometimes things don't happen perfectly on the cycle of our general board meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so on slide, where's this? I think it's 6. The years that are at the bottom, are those school years or fiscal years, like counting years?
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, it's the background general fund only.
Oh, yeah, okay, those, okay, so normally, I think, the way these things show up and the data that I get is that year is it's like a 2016-17, it would
So
say
it's
two thousand seventeen.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha, it's a school year.
June.
Thank you for that clarification.
June?
June to July.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
So
June to
that's-
June,
Yeah, gotcha.
but the number is the end of June.
Yep.
Year
Of the
number.
finals.
So on the 2025, where we see the deficit dipping down to almost $50 million, is that?
That was
is that-
from your estimated actuals.
So we've spoken about the notion that we are in deficit spending.
Yes, but I'm just wondering, was that this past?
This was
June?
this past year,
Gotcha.
2024,
Okay.
25, when we approached you, we said we were in a deficit spending
Of
model,
course,
losing
yes.
money. And this is a
No,
exam
I
graphic
just-
representation.
I wanted to know if I had to look forward to that.
Yeah,
Or if that was something that.
That was the year that just closed.
Okay,
And we don't know about the upcoming year in full, so, but yeah, that's correct.
yeah, I got you. So, and then,
What we do know is that our declining enrollment is accelerating and that our staffing hasn't changed. So it's very likely that that trend will continue.
Yeah.
and I'm wondering in the 2026, is that based off the projection? That's a projected actual, so it's, or projected, budget. Yeah, okay, good. All right, that's my question I have. I just want to verify something that are you asking us to consider, we don't have a Fund 17, right?
Correct. We currently don't have a Fund 17, and what we're asking the board to engage in is if you wish for staff to pursue the establishment of Fund 17, that would require a resolution that we would bring back to you. At that time, we would come back and make some recommendations in a separate presentation on funding strategies for that. And then eventually you'll have to make a decision about the level of funding of Fund 17. So that way we have a target of what we're trying to achieve in Fund 17, whether you choose to fund it at 3% is the bare minimum. For cash flow, we can give you analysis. Some districts are sitting at 10%, some at 15, some at 7. So we would have to be able to have that conversation, but that is not the purpose tonight, is should we establish a Fund 17 by resolution? And that would be for your discussion. Correct.
Are there any more questions before I ask for, go ahead, Christine.
Is there any downside to establishing Fund 17?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have never seen any downside to it? Okay, any further questions? If not, are we ready to take a consensus? Okay. All those who are in favor of directing staff to
look into bringing back a resolution to establish a Fund 17, the fund. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we are at 17C potential 2026 certificates of participation. Okay.
Yay, right. Thank you so much. Allow me the opportunity, as we set this up for Jim to come up from Bank of America to present to you, to draw some connections about the direction you just provided. The ability to sell bonds, there's variety. We're going to focus today on certificates of participation. We'll come back for the discussion about Series C, Measure LL, any other items, looking at financials for any potential items that the board wants to consider in the future. That would be a separate presentation. But many of these things are contingent upon factors that are, they're complicated, but we're going to try and boil it down to just a few. One is how we get money to pay for some of these bonds. This particular one this evening, Jim will walk you through. This is one that's paid for by a state redevelopment fund that we receive, and there's different strategies for how we can use them. But the second is what you get out of a bond is contingent upon your credit rating and improved credit rating. Now, we've been able to stabilize our credit rating. We actually were at a point of having a negative outlook. We are now stable. Just over the last year, we got to stable. That's an amazing thing that's happened. In order to look at things of moving from stable, moving a step up to positive outlook, one of the things they look for is a rainy day fund out of school districts. So we just took an important sort of motion towards that, and that will bring back that resolution to you on, all right? So just to draw the connection to these, we're using a similar format. The desired outcome on slide 2 is we would like the board at the end of the presentation to engage in a discussion on a potential certificate of participation. We're going to walk through the whole timeline. This takes many months to set up. And so you're really looking at doing this in the first part of 2026 if you're interested in this. And then you would direct the staff through consensus to take next appropriate steps based upon the feedback that you have. And then you might want to start to talk about what additional strategies you might want at a future board meeting for us to come back and talk to about. We do recommend that we go through a cycle. This is really complicated. If we did it all at once, you'd be here for 8, 9, 10 hours just talking about bonds. And we don't want to do that to anybody. And it can also be really frustrating for the public because they can't sit through a 10-hour meeting with us, right? So we want to be able to bring this to you. The agenda topics are just, we're going to review the types of bonds, the credit history, what sort of certificates of participation are available, provide samples for your consideration, and all items with it. For those that don't know Jen actually has been working with our district for many years in different capacities. He recently joined Bank of America in part because he loves working with Vista Unified School District. He's a Vista Unified pro. I'm going to turn it over to him. Again, this is his independent review. He's going to walk you through what is happening with our credit ratings, the types of bonds, and sort of work our way through. So Jen, thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Thank you for that, Chair. Good evening, President Marocco, Dr. Doyle, members of the trustee. Thank you for inviting me here this evening to share with you some information about COP. So to that end, we prepared a set of slides to share with you. But before I run through those slides, I want to just point out that the slides are designed in 2 parts. The first main part is to give you an overview, if you will, cursory overview about what a COP is. And then the second part is what might be possible for us should you direct staff to proceed with exploring a COP in 2026. And what are some of the steps involved with that? And I think one of the best places to start is with this credit rating slide. Because similar to our own personal finances, and many of us who have taken a mortgage loan or an auto loan might know, anytime you go to take a loan, one of the first things you do is you review your FICO score. That's a similar concept with the COP. What we want to do is first assess where our credit rating is. And you'll note that there are 2 credit ratings stated here on the slide at the top. The rating at the far right, that's your general obligation bond credit rating. We won't spend much time on that today. And I like to just focus on that credit rating at the top left, which is that A category related to a COP. Now, you might be curious, what are some of the factors driving that A category? What are some of the factors behind that? And when we review the credit rating analysis report, we see a common theme playing out. And some of those common themes are this. One is a geographical location of our district. Being in northern San Diego County is perceived positively by the investors, or in our case, the lenders. So it's good to be where we are. A couple of other factors is they pay a compliment. They pay a nod to the district's board and staff's difficult decisions that you have made so far in coming to a stable financial position. The other compliment that the rating analysts pay the board and staff is your ability to make the necessary changes and adjustments to ensure that your operations remain successful, because investors are paying attention to what you do here today. So I wanted to just point that out before we talk about the COPs. So on the next slide are some information about what a COP is. And again, this is just a general outline of a COP. COP, as I alluded to earlier, is a loan. And what's interesting about a COP when you compare it to a general obligation bond is that the board approves and authorizes the issuance of such a COP. Now, COP is essentially a promise to the investors or a lender that once you borrow this, you will repay them back. And the promise you make is that all available funds of the districts are available. Having said that, though, many school districts utilize a specific tool, like we've done back in 2022. That is to identify a single source or a couple of different sources of repayment. In our case, it's the redevelopment fund. And if you do decide to proceed, what we would do is we would commission an independent study of the projection of those RDA so that we would have an impartial study conducted. You know, a typical use of a COP, you might have heard me say bridge financing. It's really a short-term solution that will help you get to that next step where you would come up with an eventual permanent solution to meet all of your facilities needs. So it's meant to be a short-term solution to meet your immediate facilities needs that are before you today. Now, the estimated time to completion, Dr. Loescher mentioned this. One of the reasons why we're here this evening is because it does take some time from start to finish. It's about a 90 days to 120-day process. Last thing before we move on to the next slide is to comply with the state laws, there is a real estate feature. And then on the next slide, I'll review quickly what that means. There are a lot of boxes and arrows on this slide, but essentially this slide is saying this. In order to create the legal repayment source, which is a rental payment, the district will be asked to lend out a school site to its own improvement corporation. So now the improvement corporation acts theoretically as a landlord, and the district will rent that facilities back. And in return for using that facilities will pay rent to the corporation. And then that rental payment is the legal source. And what's behind that rental payment again will be the projected redevelopment revenues. So that's essentially the real estate feature of a COP. So now let's look at a real life example, which is on the next slide. This is a snapshot of a COP in which the district authorized back in 2022. I want to first point out that leased school site bullet that's in the middle of the page. That's the real estate feature. So back in 2022, the district identified Breeze Hill Elementary School as a subject property to give it to is a bad word, but lend it to the improvement corporation. And in return, the district will rent it back, pay the corporation rental payments. And the rental payments is that column C there in the table. So before we talk about the numbers in the columns, you see that the repayment source there, that's the RDA revenues. And that RDA revenues is column B. Again, that revenue projection was compiled and conducted by an independent consultant who did a projection of our future RDA revenues.
So I'd like to draw a connection to a great question that came up. There was a question on the PO. What is the $2.9 million lease payment being paid? It is that $2.9 million you see on the screen right now from that from that C column, right, of the 2025 payment for that. It's part of the legal process for that. So this is a great example. Thank you.
Sure. So with the 2022 COPs, we were able to raise about $38 million for projects. Now I'd like to draw your attention to column D. So once again, column B is the projected RDA revenues. Column C are those rental payments. And then D is what's remaining after making those rental payments. Now, the next natural question then is, okay, can we do something with this surplus revenues? Well, there's a summary on the next slide on what the district might be able to do. If we were to use those surplus RDA revenues, just as we did back in 2022, the district could theoretically or hypothetically raise about $22 to $25 million for new projects. The terms of a potential COP will remain similar to what we did in 22, whereas the repayment dates will remain identical and the repayment term will be 12 years, which will match the projected RDA revenue receipts that the district will receive. And then finally, that blank over there, that to be determined, the lease school site, that is yet to be determined. And we don't have to make that decision today or anytime soon, but we'll just have to make that decision before we start drafting the documents after we get approval from you. So this is just a snapshot of a potential COP in 2026 and what the district could potentially raise in terms of new facilities project funding. Is there something you want to add, Dr. Wilson?
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. There are additional slides that the board, it's your prerogative if you want to discuss, that are resource slides, appendix slides after, that talk about the various valuation rates increases that we've seen in RDA. This is based upon two factors. One is a financially very conservative figure that we thoroughly believe we can make. That's factor one. We may hear from financial reporters, because if the board chooses to engage in this, we'll retain a third-party independent financial person that will do a different analysis. Because keep in mind, Bank of America, they would be the underwriter. Mr. Kim is representing them. We would have retain a separate group that engages in telling us their own independent opinion. So it's not Bank of America's opinion. It's an independent opinion who has nothing involved in this, right? So we'll hear from them. You may hear that we might qualify for more than 25 million, that there is addition. But we also want to hold a type of bond on this that ensures that if there is some major recession, something happens to the state funds, that we never touch the general fund unrestricted. So we hold insurance to make sure we can do that. And the insurance amount we know we can make is up to 25 million. That would protect our general fund unrestricted. So these figures are not quite random. They're selected on purpose. They're based upon a conservative estimate of projected of what we think we can do and ensuring it to make sure that we are fully covered for any liability in the future.
Thank you for that.
Thanks,
Dr. Wilshire. So the next slide is a lot of numbers and facts. And I don't mean to give you an eye exam here, but this is what's important. Columns A, B, C, and D are carryovers from the two slides before you saw. Column E and F are the new columns. Column E is what a potential rental payments might look like for that $22 to $25 million COP. And column F is what I like to call coverage ratio, but simply you can think of it as that extra cushion, if you will. You see that figure 110%. You might be thinking, what does that mean? It means that for every dollar of redevelopment revenues you will receive, after having paid the existing 2022 COPs, and after having repaid the potential 2022 COPs, you will have 10 cents left as a surplus, as a cushion to shelter your general fund. And if the projections happen to be more conservative and you receive more funds, then that will just remain at the district's and it will not be touched. If for whatever reason our growth assumption doesn't fall within line with that 3.5% that we're assuming, let's say we grow by 3%, then that 10% is there precisely for that reason, to absorb any potential shortfall in the growth. So this is just a mathematical proof that we can sufficiently raise about $20 to $25 million in proceeds by issuing COPs with RDA revenues only. So the next thing that I like to talk about is, well, what is the process? What are the steps involved in a COP issuance? We mentioned about a 90 to 120 day process. It's a lot of boxes here, but I'll categorize them into three parts. First part is the preparation of the legal documents and getting your approval and authorization to proceed. The second part is the credit rating. And then the third part is the sale of the COPs to investors, or what I call the lenders, and delivering the funds to you. One thing I would mention about that first part is, before we bring any documentation in front of you for your official approval, we would submit a package of information to the San Diego County. And that package of information will contain a number of different things. One of those items will be a financing plan, how we intend to repay any potential COPs. And the other items are your financials. We'll accompany that plan with your historical financials as well as your current financials to the county. And the county will have time to review it. And we'll give them 30 days to review such information before asking you to consider approving the issuance of the COPs. So that's a little bit of information about what a COP is, what might be possible for the district should you decide to proceed in 2026. So with that, why don't I turn it back to Dr. Loescher.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Again, we're here for questions and answers. We're hoping you'll engage in a discussion so we can get to consensus, whether it's something you wish to pursue. You would not be passing anything tonight. This would come back to you. This would just allow for us to proceed some next steps, gather more information. One of the theories on the table to sort of get our head around with the COP is, some people ask, well, why not just take the money as it comes from RDA if it's growth? And that is a really valid, fair question. Part of the issue is construction costs are going up much faster than the amount of RDAs, which means the RDA funds down the road will not buy you as much per dollar. So the theory here is that you can get more done by financing in this way. So you can get more construction out of your dollars by doing this, by constructing today. We have not seen any decline over the last 30 years in construction costs. In fact, they have dramatically accelerated over the duration. You may even recall that when we started talking about doing a full redevelopment, redesign, reconstruction of something like an elementary school, 5-6 years ago, we were talking like, 75 million. Now we're talking 100 million. If we're talking about a cost for projection in the future, talking about 120 million, 125. So construction costs are going up. It's not buying as much. So this is part of the theory, is this is considered something that will get you more, and do it now for many of those things, but it is considered bridge financing. So we'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Superintendent, Madam President, so that way you can engage in any discussion. We're just here for questions at this point.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Go ahead, Trustee. I do. I heard on NPR, maybe the news, that the feds might
Someone's going, where was that?
the feds might reduce interest rates based on inflation and the jobs report. How would that influence if this board decides to go in this direction when we go to market?
Mr. Kim will answer that, because we have answered that in the room, and he is brilliant. And I love listening to him talk about interest.
Thank you for that question. So yes, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of news about what the next decision that the Federal Reserve Board might make. And today we had some data related to inflation. There were conflicting information, but the consensus among the investing community is that the Federal Reserve Board will more likely reduce interest rates at its next meeting this month. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, this is what it means. It will mean one of two things. Should that event arise by the time we sell our certificates of participation, then we could either raise more funds for projects using the same available funds of the redevelopment revenues, or the district may elect to say, well, we may not need more than 25 million. Then what we could do is we could increase the percentage of that cushion. Remember, I showed you a 10% cushion, maybe that become a 15% cushion. So those are two potential outcomes from lower interest rates.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good question. Anyone else?
Yes.
Trustee Vargas. Sorry, trustee Vargas.
Yep, what other school districts are already doing this in Will County?
So throughout the state, there are many school districts that are considering this because, as Dr. Locher mentioned, all of the school districts are facing construction cost escalation. And many of these school districts have outstanding general obligation bond measures as well. However, those bond amounts are not sufficient enough to address all their facilities needs. So recently, we've had school districts in Orange County consider doing exactly what Vista Unified is thinking of doing. They also have RDA revenues with some of their underlying communities or underlying public agencies. And they're thinking about leveraging that to address some of their facilities needs. And the amount that they're thinking is, because it's a different school district, different needs, but they were thinking about $60 million or so. So it's many school districts do this, and it's a very common tool.
But in North County, San Diego?
We'll get you a listing of school districts, including North County, San Diego. So that way you have a listing. We'll put that in a Friday letter, probably not tomorrow, clearly, but the following week, we will get that for you. Clearly, we are engaged in this currently. We have an existing COP as a strategy. There is a notion here. Some people have asked, so if you have a GO bond, right, a general obligation bond, why do you also have a COP? And that's a great question. When you pass a general obligation bond, it can only be used for things approved by the voters specifically in the language. The COP is not that. It can be used for deferred maintenance and other items and other things that might fall outside of that. So it's normal, no matter how good the plan is, that when you do a GO bond, you cannot account for everything that might arise down the road. So, for example, if you have athletic facilities that are just not able to be redone the way you thought they would, or they're failing in some way, but they're not listed in the GO bond, you can't suddenly take the GO bond funds to do things if there's no, right? So there's all these things. So having a COP allows for you to do that. It also allows for you to engage in absorbing some of the deferred maintenance costs. Now, some people say, so just budget for deferred maintenance costs. The problem here is, if you haven't budgeted for deferred maintenance costs over years, you have a bubble of deferred maintenance costs. This is the opportunity to catch up on things. So all those come into play. But to answer you directly, Trustee Vargas, we will get you a listing of the school districts we're aware of, including North County.
Can we go to slide number 6? So the one we issued in May of 2022, the amount we got was 38 million.
That is correct.
And that money's been spent.
No, we have not fully expensed that. There is some things with COPs in your planning. That particular COP had an agreement that we would have a plan for spending 80% of those dollars within 3 years. We did have a plan that was approved for that. We have not quite made the 80% because of the number of projects that have come back where we didn't see some bidders on those projects. We still have an amount left in there, but some of those amounts are being used for items such as we have an upcoming electrical upgrade to one of our elementary schools that's required for $6 million and other things. In terms of that COP right now, that COP has a project listing that extends down the list that oversubscribes it for probably 450, 500%. So there's no lack of projects out there that we're aware of. Some of them have even been brought before the board. For example, we brought at one time a discussion about the fields at Vista High School and RDV, and that discussion, and we didn't have enough left in Fund 40 to fund those. This would be additional funds.
So for that one specifically, like, we got 38 million. What is like the interest rate that we paid? And I get the whole scenario, like,
Yeah.
you know, we're spending it now so that, you know, cost of construction is cheaper now than it will be like 5-10 years from now. And so from that perspective, like, that's the benefit, but like, how much are we on the hook?
Yeah. I don't have the exact interest rate for the 2022, but one thing I would say is this. Back in 2022, when we sold those COPs, we were in the midst of COVID-19. And we know that during COVID-19, interest rates were at all-time lows. So the likelihood of us seeing that kind of interest rate level may not come back to us anytime soon.
And I guess my flag is like, it's not like the Poway gym bond.
No.
I know.
Well, so those were cabs
No, yeah.
specifically,
Okay.
capital appreciation bonds. I think that the way and we're all panicking because anytime you say Poway and cabs, I live down in Poway and that's, so we know that ends badly. Actually, cabs are not even legal for school districts anymore to pass, but and thank you for the state of California for giving us that designation. But more importantly, I would think of it as following. If the interest rates on these bonds were 5%, escalation for construction exceeds 10 to 15. The difference is a 10% margin in the amount is how I get my head around it. So we'll see. It's a sizable margin.
Thank you. Trustee Martin?
The property, for example, you gave Breeze Hill for the 2022. Would it be similar to like collateral? Is there any liability that we could lose that property?
No, that's one of the reasons why we do the insurance program with this, so that way we don't put anything at risk. But that's a great example. Yes, that's the equivalent of collateral. You're saying we have it. And what some people say, so how do you select the school? And that's great. It is not easy to select one. You do your best to align the school's net property value to the amount. That's how you generally select it. And you do your best job with parcels and other things to do that.
Is it possible we can use the Beaumont property for that?
That would be one of the possibilities to look at, depending upon the finalized use as approved by the board.
Is there any value? Is the value high enough in that land?
I don't have an estimate sitting with me, but my initial estimate on land use. Let me rephrase that. It is one of 6 properties we've discussed privately as worthy of investigation. That is as far as we've gone with it. We've made absolutely no assessment analysis of them, but we've looked at 6 different properties. Clearly at a value of about 25 million, you're looking at a smaller property than something the size of Breeze-Hill.
Last question. I was noticing that we are going to be capping out on this one in 2037. I'm sorry, the COP 2022. And this, you said, was another 14 years. Are we doing that on purpose to just have them kind of end at the same time?
That's exactly right, Trustee Martin. So we mentioned that the intent is to repay these COPs with RDA revenues only, without using the district's general fund. And those RDA revenues have a finite date in which you will receive the funds by, and that date is 2037. So we intentionally make sure that we're done repaying all of the COPs on that or before that time.
And we are financially solvent to cover both of those payments. I mean, that's somewhere around 5 million annually.
So let's be clear, if we go through some of the slides, but here's the important thing. No, not only it's not a we thing. The RDA funds at this time exceed the level to pay for the first COP at such a level that if we saw 3.5% growth, which is very conservative. Some people are suggesting 5, 6, 7% growth. We're suggesting 3.5, a very conservative figure. There is enough, and yes, Dr. Doyle has it up. There's enough left over in that column D that we could engage in a second COP that we believe is of no risk. We carry insurance on all of them, not to put anybody at risk as part of that package. So the general fund's not at risk. The insurance package is part of that. The properties are not at risk, but you do have to demonstrate collateral, as you put it, and that's a great example.
Thank you. Trustee Marco, do you have any questions?
No, I'm just absorbing it
Me
all
too.
now.
It's a lot.
Me too. I did have a question on that. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I know what it was. Now I remember. Because piggybacking off what Trustee Martin asked, would the new Beaubier property be eligible for?
So the new Beaubier property would well exceed the amount of 25 million. Clearly, we're investing 103 million plus the property value. So we are outside.
Thank you. It was a clarifying
Yeah.
question just to make sure I got it in my mind what we were doing.
That is not one of the 6 properties that
Thank
has
you.
ever been discussed.
Okay. Any further questions? Any discussion? Does anybody have any discussion? Okay, so I think what we're looking for is a consensus to see if we want to direct staff to go forward to do this. So, there's no further discussion. Please, put a thumb up if you would like to direct staff to bring back the proper,
What do we bring? The next step.
the next step,
Take
the next step here, it's, let me to it. Potential certificate of participation, direct superintendent or delegate and staff to take appropriate next steps based on board feedback.
Are we committed if we do this?
No, you're not committed till you vote for it. And for the financial analysis, it qualifies for redeveloper fees, which is a restricted funding source. And that is what we intend to use for any of those contracts. So it does not touch the GFU in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
Thank you, okay.
Slide 8 would be the steps, if you're wondering.
Yeah. Draft legal documents and preliminary official statements, so that's what we're doing right now, is that?
That would be the next
That's the
step.
next.
That's what we're, the consensus.
You're only giving us consensus to bring number 1 back to you.
Okay, so that's what it is, consensus to draft the legal documents and preliminary official statements circulated. Okay, so thumb up if you're good with that. Okay, unanimously, you have our permission.
All right,
Thank you very much for your time. Mr. Kemp, thank you kindly for your expertise.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great evening.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, District 18, superintendent comments.
I'm good. I know we have other things to talk about.
Yeah.
So we can, you in the Friday letter.
Right, 19A, request for future board agenda items or other business.
I do have one.
You do?
19A.
19A.
I'd like to make a request. Considering, what we've been talking about with financing and with expenditures and all that, I would like to start some sort of an inventory on programs that we're using educationally. Also system-wide, in the different departments. I know this is a huge ask and I'm not expecting any kind of quick turnaround. But I'd like to know, starting with educational programs, which ones do we have and which ones are actually being fully utilized? And is there a possibility that they're not being used and we should probably talk to the teachers at that grade level? And see if we can just kind of parse out some of these expenses if
So
possible.
we will absolutely do that. We do that every year and it's a matrix. And we can actually run a report on the use if they're digital. But we'll also do the non-digital, but that's a totally appropriate request and we will follow through with it.
And you want it on the agenda so we can have a board discussion or?
No, I just want to ask them to start that. I realize it's gonna take a couple of months, especially to get feedback from staff.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
we'll get it to you.
so this is a request for future board agenda, it's other business, so it's not a future board agenda.
I think what we would
Thank
do if the board is comfortable with this approach, and we've done this in the past, is that we would just, as we gather the information, we'll have a matrix. And we'll be giving it to you in a Friday letter so that you can track it over time. So it will probably grow over time as we complete different aspects of it.
Right.
The fastest one will be the digital. We'll be able to get that to you very quickly.
Yeah, but there's a lot of kits and other
Yeah,
things.
kits, yeah.
So even if it takes a number of months, I just want to see if there's something that is
Yeah, so
not
we
being
can-
used, so we can save some money.
No, we're with you on it.
Thank you. All right, moving on, board, go ahead. Trustee Alvarado, sorry, you have something for the future board agenda?
Yeah, business, not necessarily an agenda item. I talked to some of our certificated members who are concerned about immigration and schools and stuff, and I know we've done quite a bit to build capacity on Attorney General Bonta's guidance to educational rights of immigrant students. But I was wondering if there's a way that we can collaborate with VTA and inform more of the teachers of what that guidance states in case they don't know. And I know that we've informed lots of other groups, but as teachers, I think some still have questions. So could we collaborate with Ms. Avila and find a way to get the information out to all certificated staff on just what the guidance is, and things are always fluid with the federal government, but they're not fluid in terms of his guidance. It's quite clear. And so if we could maybe build some capacity in that area, I think it would help some of the consternation that some of the folks are feeling.
No problem.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving on. We are moving on to board member reports and comments, and we will start with our two presenters. trustees Alvarado and Vargas.
Perfect. With that, thank you so much. This is a report back from the conference that me and trustee Alvarado got to attend, the 42nd Leo conference which happened in Georgia. And so if we can move on to that slide. So pretty good conference, definitely learned a lot, got networked with a ton of people. And it's interesting because, California is a big state and, we have a large representation of folks from, city councils, water boards, all the way to the state legislature that are, Leo members and were in attendance. But at the same time, not everybody has the same landscape and environment and the same, politics as California. And so interesting to, hear other perspectives and seeing what's happening in other jurisdictions. But with it, it wasn't just about education. There was, different tracks which are, bulleted here in different points, K through 12, immigration, mental health, there's a health track, a conversation about career technical education, board superintendent relations, AI in the workforce. Interesting enough, we ran into former county superintendent Paul Gotto's a picture there, is providing his expertise on school board relationships and governance. But those are all key topics that happen both formally and informally. Yes, we have the workshops and the breakout sessions, but in addition to that, there was a lot of opportunities to engage other elected officials one-on-ones and in different lunch and activities that happen throughout the conference. Trustee Alvarado?
Yeah, I really enjoyed networking with other folks from other states, right? And we all swim in the water that we're swimming in. And what was interesting about this conference, it's one of the few places where you have people from all across the political ideology still talking and having conversations on how to improve outcomes for Latinos. And so it was very refreshing to be able to have those hard conversations and listen to other perspectives. In terms of I went to one on education, and we had both the Education Commission of the states, which is like a policy hub that works and gives guidance to school superintendents across the nation, governors about education. And they talked about their policy, what are themes for all the states, common themes for everyone. And so one was creating accessible and affordable, high quality early care and education, improving student attendance, engagement, and well-being, strengthening the educator pipeline, which is a problem for a lot of states because it's hard to recruit and some states don't get the pay that California teachers get. Reforming finance and how to navigate the waters after these one-time funds. Building holistic pathways. Post-secondary education was a big theme across all the workshops, including we had the Secretary of Labor, I think her name is Lori Chavez. Is that her name? Lori Chavez Reamer? Is that her name?
Yep.
Okay. I forgot, but she talked about what this administration is doing in terms of allowing Pell Grants to be used for career technical education, which I think is a first. And we also had the Commissioner of Rhode Island talk at one of the workshops, and I thought it was great. They're doing a lot, of course, to increase career technical education. That's something that polls very high with everyone across the nation, all political spectrums, all socioeconomics. But one thing that I found interesting is that they were doing a lot of work, not just with expanding careers, but also teaching their students how to be entrepreneurs. It's not just that you're going to be a worker, but you can be an owner in a business that you're studying about. And so I called Dr. Doyle, and then he said, ironically, we just had some type of workshop at Cal State San Marcos where we had some of our high schoolers go and learn how to do a business plan. And so it was like right when I called him, he's like, just today, he sends me a picture, maybe it was the week, I don't really know, but I thought that was great, putting that mindset into our students that they could be entrepreneurs and be their own bosses, not just a worker, which is wonderful, but so teaching that and somehow incorporating that into the CTE pathways. And I thought that was a wonderful thing that they were doing to get people into the middle class, right? Not just the lower working wages, right? Well, CTE is good wages. I did go to a workshop about the Trevor Project, which We heard that the administration cut funds, and they were no longer funding or giving money to this hotline. But the wonderful thing, they did present about Latinx LGBTQ youth, and it was like a study that no one had ever done before. And so it was very important that we kind of know what our kids are feeling who identify as LGBTQ plus. But also it's good to know that regardless of the cuts in federal funding, those hotlines are still available. It's just, they did have to cut a lot of staff, but they still have people responding to our anyone who needs the help. But it was a very interesting workshop, and I know we have to really think about kids who are on the margins right now and who are being singled out in a way that is very sad and also dangerous for them, you know. So that was good, and I shared that with Dr. Doyle, and he shared it with his staff. So
I'm sorry, just a little, before we go on, we skipped the 2 slides. So
I'm sorry.
slide 4.
I'm trying to keep up with you guys.
I'm sorry, I'm just going off. Okay, I'll stop. Sorry.
Slide before that, sorry.
Sorry.
We never presented before, so.
Holding the button.
Questions. Sorry. You're like, hey,
I'm like-
practice.
Reno's keeping up. I wasn't. I was like, where
I was like, I was like, okay, no, she's here.
So this slide, education track, the future of public education, and this is very interesting because
Guys up for now.
it's incredible that, you know, it's and reaffirming to know that, you know, you're doing the good job when you go to a conference, and all the things that they're talking about are things that, you know, we've been talking about, that we're implementing, that we're exploring. And so, you know, they talked about earlier child education, how that's a game changer, making sure students can, you know, read at 3rd grade level. And, you know, it doesn't start when they start in kindergarten, it starts before that. And so there was a huge conversation about that, talking about student attendance. And so how do we make sure that, you know, we have programs and services where we're the wraparound similar to community schools, where we are able to increase attendance, because we know when our children are in our schools,
Right,
they benefit not just academically, but socially and emotionally, and get the services that they need, whether that be, you know, mental health services, you know, the eye doctor and so forth. Additionally, you know, we're looking at a time period where all school districts are facing the same issue, where we have ARPA money that is drying up. You know, the first time ever in the last, you know, century where there was a significant increase in money thrown and given to K-12. And so now it's, you know, our challenge and our task, like, show, you know, both, you know, the state and federal government, like, hey, like, we got this money, we invested it, there's outcomes that we can show. And so, you know, they encourage us, you know, work and, you know, go testify and connect our local assembly members, federal representatives, and invite them to our schools, because there's a lot of great things happening in our school district. And with that, you know, the last thing on this is, you know, career technical education, what, you know, Trustee Little talked about. The way, and, you know, it reminded me about, you know, when we first started using technology in Vista Unified, you know, there's a lot of concerns, a lot of red flags. Actually ran into Dr. Bodis last Friday at the regional summit in Carlsbad. And so, you know, how do we use those practices? Because guess what? Whether we teach technology to our students or not, they're gonna have to use it in the workforce and as adults. And so better to have them trained, better to have them, you know, exposed to these services, programs, and at the same time, you know, teaching them for the pathways to the future. So I know that there's been a lot of great work happening in our school district over the last decade, and it hasn't stopped yet. Immigration, wanna kick this off, Trustee Alvarado?
No, I already talked a lot.
All right, so I mean, immigration, you all know what's happening. There's a lot of concern about, you know, what's happening at the federal level, immigration rates. And so, you know, best practices, you know, school districts to have, you know, a policy. What is the policy if DHS agent shows up at the front door, and making sure that the front desk staff know about it? Because typically that's where like the issue happens, you know, if somebody shows up and they don't know the policy and they allow somebody in that's not supposed to be there. And so with, you know, reinforcing that, but also with our administrators, you know, and making sure that, you know, once again, there's a clear guidance on that. But, you know, we saw this also in 2017, and unfortunately back then we did see declining enrollment. And so, assuming that, you know, arrests and detentions are going to continue to increase based on the big beautiful bill, this is something that, you know, we obviously got to monitor closely.
Well, just real quick on that, the point of pride, all of our office staff have been trained, all of our psychologists, counselors, social workers have been trained, and all of our administrators have been trained in the past month and a half. So we trained them back in the fall, back in the spring, if you remember, and we trained them again.
And there's not, safety nets per se, like we can't ever tell a person 100% that something is not gonna happen at our school site. But we are very fortunate, I believe, to be in a state where our Attorney General has already, challenged these things in court, right? And so some of the states don't have that. They don't have those cases pending. So, in that respect, we are fortunate because we have all these cases, and some have ruled in California's favor to like safeguard some of the money, get it back, and so we're fortunate to have, I think, Attorney General Bonta doing that, and that's some level of protection, I think, for our schools.
Yeah, and two more things on this one is, working with the Mexican consulate. We actually had the Mexican consulate from LA that was there, and that previously served in San Diego. And so most of our children happen to be, of Mexican immigrant families. And so if there is a deportation that happens, that, obviously the family preparedness plan, but also leaning in on our congressional representative to find out what is the status. County of San Diego has, program to provide legal representation. But, when that happens, I know we have our counselors, social workers, ready to support. But the second component is, some districts and some nonprofits are urging and encouraging people to get their US passport, for the children, so that, if they are in this situation, that at least they have some paperwork to prove that they're American citizens, if that is, their status. Moving on to mental health program and services. As we know, this is something that, can be challenging in the Latino community, especially when, there are other beliefs and, faith plays a role, and, parents may be discouraged because that is not something that they grew up with or things that they talked about. And so through, workshops, through psychologists, through bilingual information, making sure that people get the services. Once again, I think, we are doing a great job with like what we provided, not just to our students, but to our families. And this is, thanks to the work of leadership for going after those state grants. Trustee Bell, anything more on this one?
On mental health? No, just that we continue to be the in-between for accessing care, especially with the cuts to Medicaid. Because those cuts are really gonna affect our kids. There's a correlation with families or kids that are on that, receive that, and graduation and going to college. So if we can be kind of a safety net and provide some of those services at school like we are with our community schools and our care clinics and those partners, that is very, very helpful.
All right, we go out to slide and break or technical education. Anything else on that end?
No.
All right, next slide then. AI in the workforce, I talked about this briefly. I know that, we have at least started the conversation. We have a working committee, and with, engaging on what we can do. Obviously, we should be mindful of the impacts to our workforce and working alongside the bargaining units for any impacts to workers' conditions. But at the same time, it's also something that's happening pretty rapidly. We are already seeing, ChatGPT being used. And the worst thing that can happen is when a child uses ChatGPT and they're not learning, they're not, gaining those critical thinking skills. And so, with it, how do we make sure that there's both, the critical thinking opportunities, but also any programs that may be a benefit to our students. I visited VMMS last year, and, they're working through a program for assessments.
Yep.
And it's, one of these programs that, it can be daunting and, maybe some anxiety for staff. And at the same time, how do we provide those trainings to meet people where they're at? And then workforce readiness, we talked about, the CTE pathways. I know in the past we have talked about, for at least, auto shop, how do we go into like the electrification of vehicles and, what's next in that workforce? And, some of it's, not available yet because we're, growing as we're getting these electrical buses. But at the same time, we know that this is going to impact our workforce when, one of these buses breaks down. And so with, looking at policies, being proactive, engaging, the different stakeholders, and, recognizing that this is something that is happening as we speak. And then the last, slide is, former school board superintendent relationships. Surprisingly, there's a 40% of districts that experienced superintendent departure between 2019 and 2024. that shouldn't be a surprise. There's a lot of educators that are also retiring, and so with the, there are superintendents that are being moved up the pipeline, that may have or may not have experiences, in different sectors of running a school district. But this is something that every school district is gonna face sooner or later, in the next 3 to 5 years, and obviously, building capacity, building leadership in the district cabinet, making sure that, there are board relationships and, protocols to make sure that good governance happens.
And I just wanted to circle back to the immigration. The Mexican consulate, and I did not know this, but they can provide legal services to Mexicans that are detained if there's an ICE locator. I don't know if all families know that. There's like a number. I don't know if we could add it to our immigration page. And I also talked to the consulate leader in San Diego. She mentioned that she had presented at San Diego Unified School District. And just kind of, I don't know how, in what capacity, but maybe it's just educating folks on like what programs, what they can access through the Mexican consulate, if they happen to be in one of these horrible predicaments.
We actually do have that in our protocol.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, question? Okay, you have a question?
Slide 2. Is that a bank vault you're standing in front of?
That's Coca-Cola.
That is the Coca-Cola factory in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah.
But there's a bank vault.
I know, it's cool.
That's the Coca-Cola vault. That's where they hold the secret.
That's where the secret
That's
recipe
where the
is.
secret stuff is. Yeah.
I want to see what the Pepsi vault looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
No.
Very small, very small.
And right across, you have the aquarium, which had, which, sharks? What kind of shark?
A whale shark.
Oh, sorry.
Whale shark. It was awesome. My husband used to work for Coca-Cola, so he is very familiar.
They have flavors from all over the world. I'm just like, some of it's good, some of it's not so good, but
Oh, the Italian one's bitter, isn't it? Isn't the Italian one bitter?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you very much for your.
thank you.
Yeah, that was very insightful.
Okay, and moving on, is there any other the board member report outs? I've just, for me, just, I've been doing I know I didn't go yesterday to the leadership meeting for the construction, so I had a good reason. I found a kitty, found a kitty, and I found his owner, and so I had to return the kitty to his owner. So I had a good reason, but, yeah, so, anyone else? Okay, well, thank you, and, let's, move on. Any board member reflections on board meeting? Okay, so the next regular board meeting is Thursday, October 16th.
Are you going to convene the?
Yes, and then we're going to convene to close session. And this open session is adjourned at 9:18 p.m.